You know, when I was recently talking about cursed cover art, I discussed this Wizard of Oz 4K, and it made me think back to the really great Wizard of Oz collector sets of the past.
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and on today's video we're going to take a trip back in time. We're going to look at some Wizard of Oz collector sets from the past, because I did just get the standard 4K for this one. I know there was some fancy set, but after you've had a couple of the older ones, do you really need another fancy set? This is a movie that's been printed onto home video dozens and dozens and dozens of times. There's other copies of it that I don't even have out for this video just because they're kind of redundant. But I kind of wanted to like look back at some prior Wizard of Oz home video releases, because, you know, the 4K, I think, disc-wise, transfer-wise, absolutely top-notch, but I really liked this set. And that set's pretty cool, too. That one's not even a DVD. That's a VHS. We're doing one of those type of videos today. We're looking back at some older releases of The Wizard of Oz. And if you enjoy that type of video, hit the like button, hit subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss out on future uploads. I really, really love this movie. It's one of my all-time favorites. Me and my mom watch it annually. We've mixed it up now. We don't watch it at the exact same time every year. And so it's one of those movies we're going to end up buying. That being said, I feel like we have kind of topped out with 4K. I mean, once you get a good 4K of a movie, I feel like we've hit the peak. I mean, our eyes really can't register anything above that resolution natively. So, you know, I think we've kind of hit it. But I really wanted to kind of go back, because the first set that I remember us ever having for The Wizard of Oz was this big old VHS collector's edition. So here we have the Ultimate Oz, the definitive collector's edition of The Wizard of Oz. Obviously, you know, that's a bold claim to make in the VHS era, but they didn't know what would come up, and at the time, definitely definitive. Let's see if it still holds up to modern standards. It is gigantic, by the way. What's really crazy to me, because Warner Brothers, you know, has done a lot of purchasing and selling and stuff, they've taken full ownership of this. This still has the MGM United Artists home video logo and the Turner logo, because I believe it was through the Turner purchase that Warner Brothers ended up getting part of the MGM catalog, and that's how they took ownership of The Wizard of Oz. Very interesting. You can see the back is just Emerald City green, which is pretty fun. You know, pretty nice spine design as well. It's not super impressive from the outside aside from the size, but let's take a look inside this. Now, I have distinct memories of us owning this set. This is, you know, the definitive set. It is super dusty, now I realize. I have not opened this in years, so this is the first time in a long time that I've actually opened this box. So this might actually end up being a surprise as well. So it's an unboxing video. I know there's stuff in here. I just can't remember exactly what it is. So let's find out. Let's find out together. All right. So wow, we got a lot in here to go through. So there was a free Oz poster offer that was part of this. I do remember this. This is something I do remember hearing about. So there was this thing, if you bought this is the little back pamphlet, that you could get this poster. And the way you got the poster is that you had to like mail in for it, basically. And it looks like my mom wrote a note about how the check hadn't cleared and we had a change of address. So I actually don't know the follow-up on this part of the story, and I probably should go ask and insert it in if we ever got this poster. So I checked with the folks, and we in fact did get that poster, and they sent 2 of them after all the confusion and miscommunication across letters, across oceans. Good times, because I'm really curious now. Because yeah, back in the day, you'd have to send it in with a check or money order for $3 to cover shipping and handling. Boy, when shipping and handling was only $3. Offer valid till January 31st, 1995. I was not born yet. Before we get into the set, I just noticed the interior lid has a whole big thing listing out, like, basically how MGM celebrate the 50th anniversary in 1989, and they talked about, like, they did postage stamps and documentaries and a bunch of other stuff to celebrate it, and so it's like, look, it's important. This is how important The Wizard of Oz is, which at the time, you kind of had to emphasize its importance, because I don't think it even fully ingrained in pop culture the way it is now. So this is fun. So let's start with this. So we've got a March 15th, 1939 continuity script for The Wizard of Oz. So let's see, it starts off here. We got, please note the script contains all material from the March 15th, 1939 cutting continuity script taken from the printer's dupe. Scenes and dialogue later deleted for the final release of The Wizard of Oz have been indicated in italics. So this is a replica of the continuity script, which is basically like the script used to keep the continuity while filming. And so it does start with a message that basically kind of describes it here, which is really, really cool. And is kind of going into like the history of the film and the people that were involved with the final shooting script, which is pretty cool. So that's been kind of added here. That's a lot of extra things. Note, neither the opening credits nor the closing list of cast were part of the March 15 edit. They've been included here for reference purposes. So it does kind of note when they've changed something. But, you know, here you go. Like, look at this. Sepia tone, part 1, fade in, lion head trademark, fade out, lion roar, fade in, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer presents. This is really cool to have something like this because, especially with how much of a nightmare production history The Wizard of Oz had, to have any kind of record of like how things work together. But basically this is like a script to kind of keep like how the final cut was going to be. Now the question is though, right? Like the most famous deleted scene from this movie is the jitterbug dance sequence, right? They spent millions on it and then cut it last minute because they felt that it didn't fit. They felt that it was pacing issues, time, whatever. They cut the jitterbug number, and we've never seen the footage of it. There's Harold Arlen's like home videos of rehearsals, and that's it. Like we don't actually have the scene. It's one of the more famous lost media deleted scenes in movies because of how known this movie is. So I was just curious if this script has it. 'Cause I'm looking also, it's got the longer version of the Scarecrow dance number of If I Only Had a Brain. The longer version is on bonus features. It is on Blu-rays and DVDs and stuff. So we do have like footage of that. It's weird that the jitterbug's missing, but that's just kind of like, you know, you have like these, you know, everything done on film. Film is flammable. You know, if they kept it, cool. If they didn't keep it, it got thrown in the trash. You know, they call it the cutting room floor for a reason because they just cut it, left it on the floor. And then also like if they did keep it, it could have gone up in a fire because there's been so many like warehouse fires and studio lot fires and stuff. So, yeah, okay, like we're at they're almost at the Emerald City. So this should have the jitterbug section in it if it's got the extended Scarecrow scene. It's got some of the, even like the extra lines and things that were cut, which is really, really interesting. Yeah, okay, so there they are meeting the wizard. I guess spoilers for the movie if you're worried about that. Hey, look at that, it's the sticker from the front of the box that mentions everything's included. That's pretty cool. Let's see. It is Something Bit Me. Now come on, you're acting silly. There it is. There's the jitterbug scene. Okay, we use that as a bookmark. Yeah, there it is. It is the who's it's, what's it. We have the audio because they recorded the soundtrack for the movie. We have the audio of the jitterbug number. We just don't have the video. And there it is. There is the jitterbug with the lyrics and the song number, all of that. That is really, really cool. Yeah, that's one of the, I think also with this movie, because it's so well documented in terms of like what was cut, what was changed, just also have the longer number at the end. There's a lot, like I think as a young film fan, I was enjoying the behind the scenes. Even if the original Tin Man makeup terrified me as a child and I had like nightmares about it, it definitely, like, I love the behind the scenes of this movie. And so it's like the first time I knew about, like, oh, this was cut from here and this is cut from here. And every time I watch the movie, I'm like, that's where the jitterbug is referenced, even though it's not in the final. It's a very fascinating movie to look at. The question is, does it have Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, which was the other big expensive sequence cut from the movie? They actually had it that, you know, at the end of the movie, after they defeat the Wicked Witch of the West, they do another rendition of Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, but it's like everybody in the Emerald City and the Winky Guards and everything. And it's like this huge number. And then they cut it. And we don't have the footage of that. We only have stills of that. At least we have some footage of the jitterbug. So like that at least is there. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, here's Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead. Once again, going through it was a big music number. It wasn't as expensive as the jitterbug, but still kind of crazy they cut it because basically in this movie, in its final form, I think the last musical number is Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and then there's just like no more musical numbers for the rest of the movie. Quick pause. I know I sound like a moron right now. We will correct this in a minute. Bear with me. Because there was supposed to be more Ding Dong the Witch is Dead. So there you go. That is a really cool piece. That is an amazing thing. That makes this one of the coolest like collector's editions ever. How many special editions for home video give you a whole shooting script? Or at least a continuity script, or a script of any kind. All right, so we have some photographs here taken from the set of the film. You can see these are like publicity stills, kind of. I think these are more publicity stills. Look at this. I always love when you're watching a movie, you can have like a small intimate scene like this, right? Like you just seeing in the movie Dorothy, Tin Man, Scarecrow. They're great, you know, like together. They're really like it's a really intimate moment. But you look at like a behind the scenes shot. And it's like, here's the whole camera rig, here's all the lighting, here's all the crew getting everything in, the sound, you know, and all that. Like, you know, it's so funny, like when you see an intimate moment in a movie and then you pull back the camera, you know, if you were to pull back the camera and see how it all happened, it's a lot of people to make a movie. This is a very interesting shot here because it's kind of like got like it's supposed to be superimposed Dorothy in the globe, but Margaret Hamilton's makeup looks different in that. Very, very different. Here we got a shot from the end of the movie, which I think is brilliant. I think this is really, really cool. It's so cool to have any surviving photos from a movie this old. That looks like kind of nice, like promotional still. Yeah, very interesting stuff. And then, of course, there is the VHS tapes themselves. Here is the Wizard of Oz, the movie itself, on VHS tape, properly rewound, because we know how to take care of our stuff around here. Yeah, that is the VHS tape for the MGM United Artists home video version. And then on top of that, because this was kind of like how you had to do things because of the size restrictions on VHS, here is the making of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, hosted by Angela Lansbury. They still include this even on the modern releases because it's so good. This also has bonus material. It's got the Deleted Over the Rainbow reprise. I just made a big blunder when I said Somewhere Over the Rainbow was the last song in the movie. I keep forgetting they deleted this because I thought it was great that they had this. There was a moment where Dorothy's locked in the tower and she starts singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow because she's like really distraught and she just wants to get home. And, you know, it's really great. And then I forget that they cut that from the movie. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So what was the last song in the movie? Is it like the King of the Forest number? Now I'm trying to remember because I know too much about what was cut. So, yeah. We also got Ray Bolger's Scarecrow dance sequence that was cut from the film, directed by Busby Berkeley. They brought in Busby Berkeley specifically to do that dance sequence, and Busby Berkeley was known for doing amazing dance sequences. It's a great scene. Dress rehearsal and film and complete soundtrack of the Excise Jitterbug. That's the first time that was ever available out there. First recording of I Only Had a Heart, sung by Buddy Epson, who was the original actor playing the Tin Man, who got deathly sick from the makeup they used, and that's why we ended up getting Jack Haley as the Tin Man, which is wild. And then some newsreel footage of Judy Garland accepting her 1939 Oscar, theatrical trailer, and more. Like you're starting to see like this release. What was this? 1990 was the special, but this set was 94, right? And you're starting to see the beginnings of what would become like the typical home video nature, right? Like including behind the scenes material with the movie. And that's something that would become so common in the VHS era and would sort of die in the modern era. We don't get the level of depth on things like we used to. And a lot of nowadays, right? Like a lot of the modern releases of older films are just reusing stuff that was created back when like these releases were coming out for like VHS and Laserdisc and all that. So this is really, really cool to look back at. This was kind of the big first collector's edition for The Wizard of Oz. And is it definitive? I wouldn't say so because the bonus features on the next release are spectacular. But this was really, really good and really holds up to, you know, why do we keep this around? Not just because Wizard of Oz, but because there's stuff in here that you don't get otherwise, like that script. That script is such a cool piece. All right, so that previous set was done after the 50th. Let's look at the 70th anniversary edition of The Wizard of Oz, and this is the ultimate collector's edition. This was a limited edition of 243,000 copies, of which this one is 203,712. And this one's kind of cool because it is kind of like what I call the Warner Brothers rectangle. Other studios do this too, but it's that, Warner Brothers kind of started it. But what's cool about it, it's got a book spine design. Look at that. It looks like a book. Like you could put it on a shelf as a giant book, which is appropriate because Wizard of Oz is adapted from, what do you know it, a book. I like this cover. I like this cover quite a bit. I think it, it captures the spirit of the movie. I like that it's got Frank Morgan in there somewhere because he's like a bunch of characters in the film. And it just looks way better than whatever the hell this is. So, props. Appreciate it. Love it. It looks nice. It looks nice. You can see you got, 70th anniversary markings all over. Nice little Oz logo on the back. Once again, haven't opened this in a while. Sort of remember this one more just because it is newer and I've opened this box more before the 4K came out. This is kind of like my go-to copy. So there we go. Look at that. That's a beautiful photo. Look how nice everybody is. Look how everybody's happy. Except Jack Haley's like, I can't tilt my neck up. My collar's too high. It looks great. All right, so what do we got inside this one? So first things first, we've got the complete campaign book from Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's Wonder Show of Shows. This is kind of like, looks like, promotional how to advertise Oz type thing, and that's what this is recreating, which is super cool. This is like promotional material recreations. Like this is what the lobby cards will be. So you can have, because this is a thing before we had like the posters and like the, fancy screens in movie theaters. Lobby cards were how things were advertised because they'd be in, theater lobbies. Because there was a lot of movie theaters that started as like stage theaters and then they ended up becoming, movie theaters. And so they had lobby cards, which is, kind of an old lost art in a lot of ways. You can see here we got like a little letter about the 70th anniversary, and where Warner Home Video, because it's now Warner, is proud to present a reconstruction of the film's original 1939 campaign book, which this is basically a book famous in fiction, a play celebrated on the American stage, a picture that is truly a triumph for exploitation. I love seeing the way that marketing materials used to be handled for companies pre-internet, because if you put this out now, it would leak online and make so much bad press, right? But this is how companies used to look at properties, right? They didn't really get away with, like they would get away with how to exploit Oz, how to advertise Oz, how to publicize Oz for record business. This was how they handled things. If you go back and look at like TV upfront presentations that are preserved online because people sold off their like VHS tapes or whatever of those, you'll see like some of the most like just explicit, like, we're here to make money off of this property, and they don't really hide anything because it's all discussed among businessmen and businesswomen and people in general, like just business, right? It's just pure business. They're not like trying to hide it. Nowadays, because everything's front facing and internet and the way that like social media has evolved, a CEO won't just come out and say, we made this just to make money. They'll say something like, oh, we're remaking this movie because we feel like we have a new creative vision for it, when we all can just tell that you just decided to make something you're going to just profit off of. That they used to be a lot more unashamed about it because they wouldn't tell the public about it. This would only be for people within the business circle that understood that. Whereas now everything's become more front-facing to the public and therefore also front-facing to public scrutiny. So it just kind of feels like we used to have more honest times with the business people involved with making movies, whereas nowadays it kind of feels a little bit more muddied. Even though we all know that the business people are in it to make money, and there's nothing wrong with that. They just used to be a lot more explicit about it. So anyways, let's take a flip through this. This is basically them pitching to companies. Look at this. As one showman to another, you are presenting the greatest marvels, splendors, and wonders on the screen since the extraordinary Snow White. The Wizard of Oz is played by a cast of living actors. It's not a cartoon picture. You could get in legal trouble for doing stuff like that now. This is 1939 and did not care. The picture is a dazzling modern musical in all Technicolor. Cost $3 million to produce and was 1 year in production. A little bit longer than that, but sure. You lie your way to the top. Why not? 80 million people have read The Wizard of Oz. It's the greatest of all adventure in the wonderland of make-believe. It ran 4 years on Broadway, starring Fred Stone and Dave Montgomery. 941 cities saw the play, which toured American cities for another 4 years. Comparisons are unfair to everyone, but if you have to compare it with Snow White, because millions loved that great production, we'll certainly rave over The Wizard of Oz. Now get set to give it a great exploitation campaign aided by MGM's showmanship suggestions. Oh, I love this. This is the best. They're just like, look, it's, Wizard of Oz leads this season's parade of hits from MGM. This is so fantastic. I'm not going to read every page. I'm going to flip through every page, though. You can pause and read as you want. This is so bold. This is so bold. It's like they will be the favorite songs of young and old. Remember what the Snow White music did for that picture? Don't pass up on a similar opportunity. It's basically like, oh, you missed out on Snow White hype? Well, get on our hype train because we're going to be bigger and better. And I don't think it worked the way they did because Wizard of Oz was a commercial failure at release. It totally flopped at release. I've always, sort of made the joke that Wicked is the first Oz-related movie to turn a major profit. Because some of them have barely made a profit, but like The Wiz, that flopped out the gate. Return to Oz, woo. Not many of them turn a profit out the gate. It's usually like they're beloved later on. It is really, really fun. They push this so hard. Part of it also is because this movie cost a stupid amount of money. And it also just took so long to come out, it may just hit at the wrong time. I also wonder if, nowadays we see something like, a book gets adapted to a movie and it's not like a perfect adaptation, people lose their minds. Did that happen in Wizard of Oz? Because, boy, this wasn't even close to the original book. That's why things like Wicked can exist, because the original book and the MGM film are essentially two different IPs with how many changes that were made from this. I also apologize, I can't keep my fingers off the book without dropping it, so I can't, I'm trying to not cover anything, but they were going hardcore on the publicity here. This is, hold on, let's backtrack a second here. Organize a Wizard of Oz club. This type of promotion has always been successful. It's always successful until it's not, right? Like at some point, those things bottom out. Here's your full Technicolor Triumph. Here's full color ads. Here's like your ads you could put in your Sunday comics section where they actually had color in the newspapers. I love that this is sort of equivalent to the script. Like the script is like, here's the art of the film. And then this edition's like, here's the exploitation of the popularity. Like it's just two sides of the business, right? The nature of the film business is that it's 50% creative and 50% business. And when one takes over too much from the other, the movies don't do so well, right? Like if it's too business focused, the movie's not as good. If it's too creative focused, it doesn't make money. There's a balance. It's a total balance. And it's so fun that we got two different editions that are kind of focusing on different pack-ins. I absolutely adore this. I'm tickled. I am tickled by this because also, it takes a company like Warner Brothers who's unashamedly just trying to make money to release something like this. And this was, many, many years ago. I think like 2 owners ago in terms of like their corporate mergers. But yeah, here's some like newspaper articles basically that's like describing how and showing how this was implemented. So it's truly a triumph for exploitation. Love it. All right, what else we got in this nice box here? Let's see. Oh, can I get this out of here without crinkling it? Oh, I don't like when stuff is perfect fit. Okay, there we go. Here we go. We have the Wizard of Oz. Is this the call sheet? This is a call sheet. All right, so call sheets, I should explain. Call sheets are essentially what is used. This is not a call sheet. This is a budget sheet. This is a budget sheet. Anyways, call sheets are basically a daily thing for what is needed for the movie. And so actors on a call sheet will be ranked by number because whoever's going to have the most scenes, the most lines will be ranked number 1 and then number 2, etc. And so if you're like, an actor in a production, you're going to look at the actor call sheet and see if you need to be needed that day. If you're on crew, if you're like, lighting or grip or, set construction, whatever, your call sheet will tell you what you're going to be doing and what time you need to come in for that day. And so they get those out the day before. This is actually a budget sheet for salaries. because basically this is like showing like, you know, description, producers, unit, overhead, and it's got a number of like what's the estimated budget for the producers unit. Here is the total to date to see if you're matching how much is being spent in each category from what was the estimate for the budget and what was the total to date. So that down here at the bottom, you can see they're going over budget by what looks like about, that's a lot of extra numbers. They went over budget by a lot on this movie. Very interesting inclusion. Very interesting inclusion indeed. All right, so next we have this book. It's a book. It's Behind the Curtain, a Wizard of Oz production of Production 1060. So let's take a look inside this one. All right, so Behind the Curtain. I guess that was the Wizard of Oz production number was 1060, right? Nice promotional shot. Kind of starts, you know, basically just kind of describing, oh, it's a full-on book to kind of go through the production of the film, but it's got some really nice photos here. You can see we've got the suggested cast for The Wizard of Oz, which does list Judy Garland, an orphan in Kansas who sings jazz. Does Judy Garland, an orphan in Kansas, sing jazz? Is that a weird description of Dorothy? Ray Bolger for the Tin Woodman, Buddy Ebsen for the Scarecrow. That's interesting because Ray Bolger ended up playing the Scarecrow. Buddy Ebsen was originally going to play the Tin Woodman. Frank Morgan as Wizard of Oz. That stuck. We got Fanny Bryce as a witch, Edna Mae Oliver as another witch. Neither of those ended up happening. Betty Janes as the Princess of Oz who sings opera. That's something from the books. And Kenny Baker as the prince. So interesting stuff there, because that's a bunch of things that didn't stick. So we got individual pages for each actor here, which I think is great. Jack Haley as the Tin Man was so good. Burt Lahr does not get enough credit because he had to deal with, with all the actors of Dorothy's gang. I always like calling them Dorothy's gang because, you know, they go through the story, they hang out together, they form a tight bond, they kill somebody together. They're a gang. Anyways, Ray Bolger, he had like this makeup that kind of reflected him, but it was kind of like, you know, it was a prosthetic, but it still looked like his face. You can kind of still act it. You can see how much it moves. Jack Haley was in silver paint. Luckily, that didn't poison him like poor Buddy Ebsen. And then Burt Lahr had a full face prosthetic with a lower jaw that moved. So he had a little bit harder of a time acting through that, but it still pulls it off. Like, it's miraculous. They're all fantastic in this movie. There's Frank Morgan. It was really cool. They sprinkle Frank Morgan throughout the movie, which I think is so fun. Then, of course, we got Billy Burke and Margaret Hamilton, which they're both terrific in this. And I think that's the thing that makes the movie work, right? Like, there's a bunch of weird plot holes. It's got some gaps, but it's so magical because it's just got this wonderful energy, and it's carried by its cast. That cast keeps the energy going throughout all the ups and downs of that production. Like, it never shows on screen all the chaos behind the scenes for this movie. And yeah, I think that's why it stayed so prominent. I think that's why it stayed so strong, is I think the initial story is so good, and then everybody involved just gave it their all and made a fantastic movie. It stood the test of time for so many years. If it wasn't even appreciated when it came out, but later on people were like, wow, this is such an amazing movie. And I think that's why it sticks in our minds, because of the people that made it happen. And it's also got like, looks like they got some pages of, you know, here's the release of the movie, and then here's like awards season and stuff, and yeah, little thing on L. Frank Baum, and it's a weird promotional still. What is going on here? Dorothy's just ready to axe that Tin Man. She's not sure about him. She's got the look in her eyes, and I like how the line's just, you know, added in from a different promotional still, obviously. Fun times indeed. All right, so true to a Warner Brothers rectangle fashion, we have one random object. That is this little tin, which has a Wizard of Oz watch in it. No idea necessarily why. They do this a lot. They throw in watches, they'll throw in a necklace, they'll throw in... It's not like it's an object from the movie. It's just, here's a fancy Wizard of Oz watch. Yep, that's pretty much it. I got nothing else on that point. It's a watch. All right, it would have been kind of cool if it was like, you know, the Tin Man's watch, like his little heart clock thing. All right, so before we get, this is the actual discs, but there's another little palette down here, little goodies. All right, so inside this one, oh my gosh, this is another weird thing Warner Brothers does. They're like, let's include something that makes no sense. Like lenticular cards. It's got Dorothy and Dorothy, okay. And then you got the Tin Man. I think this is coming through on camera, right? It's actually, they're 3-sided lenticulars? Oh, that's expensive. I'm used to kind of 2-sided lenticulars for a lot of these things, but it actually is a 3-image lenticular. Is it also the same for Dorothy? Yeah, it is a 3 for Dorothy. It's just 2 of them look exactly the same. And then I imagine, yep, there's the Cowardly Lion. Same thing there, which is pretty cool. And then we got the Scarecrow. Look at that. Those are pretty neat. I think the thing that I liked the most out of the set for sure was the promotions book, right? This is kind of like this typical, like, look, we added stuff, and I'm like, yeah, it's cool, but like, you know, it's just I'm just gonna put it back here and not look at it again for years. It's not why I'm remembering the set. And then here is the Blu-ray itself. So this was the Blu-ray edition of the movie, which you have a nice cover, right? Nice cover there. And then on the inside, wow, that's shiny. Hello, everybody. We've got a really, so shiny in my lights like this. Toto, I've got a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. And then you got disc 1, disc 2, and then disc 3, which is double-sided. I hate double-sided discs. I've talked about this. It's awful. At least they're in plastic and not in cardboard slips. I do like, actually, I just realized that is like artwork that is very reminiscent of the artwork from some of the Oz illustrated books. Like there's Glinda, there's the Wicked Witch, there's, you know, Dorothy, Scarecrow, Tin Man, Lion. It's kind of reminiscent, but I think it's more supposed to be the movie versions through the book. So we got disc 1, Dorothy's on it. I haven't got a brain, only straw. Oh, yeah, it's got the quotes from each character behind each thing, right? No place like home. So Tin Man should be like, now I know I have a heart because it's breaking. And then the Cowardly Lion should be like, what is it? What do we got here? Read what my medal says. Courage, ain't that the truth? Pretty fun. So what is contained on this set, for those wondering on the disc cards? I don't think all this made it to the 4K. So we've got, God, the shininess. I shall read it to you all. Disc 1, the movie, commentary by historian John Frick, who wrote stuff for the set. Optional music and effects only or original mono tracks, Dolby 5.1 sing-along edition. Wonderful Wizard of Oz Making Movie Classic, that was from that second tape. Wonderful Wizard of Oz storybook read by Angela Lansbury, that's beautiful. Prettier Than Ever, The Restoration of Oz, out of date because it's only on the Blu-ray version, not the 4K. We Haven't Really Met Properties, supporting cast profile gallery, Memories of Oz, Art of Imagination, Tribute to Oz, Because of Wonderful Things It Does, Legacy of Oz, Harold Arlen's Home Movies, which does have the Jitterbug part in it. Outtakes and deleted scenes, which includes all the things I've talked about. It's a Twister, the Tornado Tests. From the Vault, the Audio Vault. Stills Gallery, theatrical trailer, and Off to See the Wizard. Then disc 2 has Victor Fleming, Master Craftsman, L. Frank Baum, The Man Behind the Curtain. Hollywood celebrates its biggest little stars, which I think is about the Munchkin actors, as in the actors that played the Munchkins. The Dreamer of Oz, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Oh, The Dreamer of Oz, 1990, which was another behind the scenes. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, 1910, which is a really old silent film adaptation. Wizard of Oz, 1933, which is another silent film. His Majesty the Scarecrow of Oz, Patchwork Girl of Oz, and The Wizard of Oz, 1925. Those are all silent films, which I don't think those carried forward, but those are freakishly horrifying. And then there is disc 3, which has MGM When the Lion Roars, a 6-hour award-winning studio chronicle of MGM, which is on this DVD, and that's why it's there, because it's in 2 chunks. You have to flip the disc over because it's 6 hours. That is a DVD, while the other things are Blu-rays. Including those silent films was one of the coolest things ever, and also traumatizing as a child, because honestly, like, those silent films scare me. They still kind of do. They're very unsettling for a lot of reasons. Also, I'm realizing that, like, I think this campaign book thing is supposed to go here. Does it fit? Yeah, it fits like this. I had this thing out of order. This is a cool set. And honestly, I don't think the later sets they've done that are fancy were this nice. And yeah, this is really, really great. This was fun looking back at these. I hope you all enjoyed looking back at the wonderful world of Wizard of Oz home video. I just realized that's what I'm going to be calling this video. The wonderful world of the fancy collector's editions. Because look at that. So for those curious about bonus features, the 4K edition came with the 4K, and on the 4K disc was that audio commentary and The Wonderful World of Wizard of Oz Making a Movie Classic. That was the 1990 thing with Angela Lansbury. That was skipped on the 75th anniversary edition, which I never picked up, and was last time was the 70th anniversary edition, which we just looked at. So that's on the 4K disc, and then the Blu-ray disc is the same disc 2 from the 75th anniversary edition, which means it does have the movie plus all of the bonus features that are listed here. If you can see that, that is some of the bonus features from the 70th, but not all of them. But it does add a couple new ones, I think, from the 75th. The 75th edition was stripped down from the 70th. This 4K edition, like I said, is the nice disc version, but I'm glad I had that 70th set because that has way more bonus features and a much nicer cover. This was a fun look back at these prior sets, and I hadn't opened them in a long time, so I kind of forgot what was in them. And if you enjoyed this, I'd like to know. If you did, leave me a comment, because I just decided to kind of do this a bit on a whim. It wasn't the original video plan for the day. I had a review I was going to do that didn't work out, and thought, well, Wicked's coming out. Let's do some Wizard of Oz, and pulled these out, and it was so much fun looking back at these. Quite enjoyed this. If you enjoyed this too, and you haven't already, hit the like button. Lets me know you enjoyed it. Lets YouTube know. Also, subscribe to the notification bell so you don't miss out on future Blu-ray videos. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can join our Discord server in the link below. You can also join as a channel member and get perks like early access to videos. Let's give some special shout-outs to our channel members. If you so wish, I'm on social media on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Soundout12. You can also find my wonderful graphic designer on social media and Discord at DarkClaw643. You can find Hero Club at hero-club.com for entertainment, interviews, and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying, we're off to see the wizard.